Hey y'all, welcome to Big Texas Bossin, the show that spills the Texas tea on bossing up, tossing coins, and living your biggest and best life on your own terms. I'm your host, Leilani Wilson-Jones, and today on my business and fashion segment, we are bringing you another Texas heavyweight, Regina Moretto.
It's time for Big Texas Bossin with Leilani Wilson-Jones. Spilling the tea on Bossing Up.
Welcome to the show, Regina.
Hi, y'all. How's everybody doing?
Thank you for being here. Celebrity fashion stylist and image consultant Regina is a visionary when it comes to fashion and is inspired by vintage looks. Her creativity captured the attention of fashion pioneer Carl Kanai, who has allowed Regina to create campaigns for his renowned brand. Regina's work has also been seen on celebrities such as James Harden, Imani Hakim, Cheat Codes, and many others. Because of Regina's eye for fashion, she was afforded the opportunity to work as editor-in-chief at Coas magazine in 2012. During her time at the magazine, she secured interviews with actress Vivica A. Fox, Basketball Wives Candace Ford, and Keisha Beard, as well as actress Megan Good. When Regina is not attending fashion and red carpet events or working as a creative director, she enjoys frequenting eatery venues around town to write about in her blog. We will be discussing fashion and the business of being in the entertainment industry behind the scenes. Wow. All right. Would you like to tell our Big Texas Bossin audience who is Regina Moretto?
Well, after an introduction like that, but for me, just simply put, I am a creator. I see myself as an artist and a little bit of a visionary. I do like to try to create the environment that fosters and inspires other artists and creates just telling a story through different mediums, whether it be through my photography or through fashion stories, editorials, work in music videos. I just love the art of storytelling. So I'm a creative storyteller.
Wonderful. How did you find your way into the arts?
That's a funny story. I actually, years ago, my niece is kind of the conduit that led me into the fashion world. She was like 5'8", 5'9", at like 12 and 13 years old. We would get stopped all the time in the mall with people who were like, oh, she should model. My mom was a model, and we just kind of navigated her towards that career field and put her with the right people. And I chaperoned her on these different, test shoots, and I'm bringing wardrobe. And as I'm dressing her and kind of helping manage her career and being like that safety net there, the photographers and different creative teams, they start to reach out to me and book me for shoots outside of just the campaigns with my niece. And I built a reputation. My name got passed around word of mouth. I started doing more work in publications, getting in print locally in Houston, nationally, internationally. I've been published, in Russia, the Ukraine, Spain, Canada, a lot of places. And so just it kept building from there. And me being the kind of person I am, I'm like, what's the next level? What can I do next? I ended up starting to move to LA and working there and becoming more involved in production, doing just small film and just assisting other well-known stylists just to kind of get my feet wet, whatever, and finding out just the ins and outs of the industry and the business. And I just kept climbing, kept searching, kept looking for new challenges. And that was my start. That's my origin story.
Wow. So was there any type of formal education or training, or it was all self-learned and you went for it with boots on the ground, as we say in Texas?
Definitely boots on the ground. That is very much a Texas trait. We kind of just dive in head first and learn and ask questions later. Right. It was out of necessity, and I did have a talent for it. I've always been a fashionable dresser, even in my youth, and I always pushed the boundaries. I loved experimenting with clothing through fashion and vintage wardrobe. I like to dress up in my mom and my grandmother's things. They had, oh my God, a beautiful sense of style. They were very, very sharp dressers, and they allowed me that space to experiment with my looks and try on different things. I probably was the only 13-year-old wearing a blazer and button-up blouse in middle school.
You sound like me wearing full suits to high school. I wore pantsuits to high school, and I loved it with heels. So I truly understand.
Same, very much the same. I remember when I went into my little goth phase, my mom was just like, whatever. You know, I loved, but that was me experimenting with palettes, with color palettes. I had a very basic black, gray, and red color palette. Then, of course, when Clueless came out, I was all about the two-piece suits and the plaids and very heavily into designer name brands. And, you know, at that time in the 90s, Tommy Hilfiger, Calvin Klein, Gucci, I was obsessed. Spice Girls, like that was all of these different, I was very trendy, but I started to break away from trends and create my own looks, which got the attention of a lot of my peers. They're just like, you're such a weird dresser. And then now, like, a lot of my friends from high school, they're like, this makes sense. We can see this for you. This is definitely the career for you.
Right. They saw it coming. So did you have a mentor, or what was your take on it?
Several mentors.
Okay.
Several mentors throughout my career. I feel like my mom instilled in me that at a young age that you should always look for someone in your field or someone to be more knowledgeable that can help guide you in anything that you have questions with, anything you're interested in. Seek out the expert. And so as I started, there was a website called Model Mayhem, and I would find other seasoned stylists on there, call and talk to them. I had a really good mentor that we kind of just were in alignment for a year or two, where he taught me a lot of things about the etiquette of working with designers. What are their expectations when you're pulling their pieces, and, you know, working with models or working with celebrities. So he taught me the ropes and kind of cut the strings and umbilical cord and set me off into the world. He was like, you're ready. And I was like, I'm not ready. But I'm glad he did, because he wanted me to kind of learn to create my own sense of style and sharpen my craft without trying to mimic what he was doing. And I'm so grateful for that. And then as I progressed and I started to get into the LA market, of course, working with Stylist there, and then Carl Kanai taking me under his wing, I feel like that really was just me coming full circle with the fashion community, because he was such a leader of fashion culture, especially for the urban culture, that me just getting to shadow this man and hear his thoughts and how he puts together campaigns, how he thinks about business, how he, you know, got his product on all of these different celebrities. And it's just, it's amazing. I mean, even his conversation that he told me about with Tupac, and like that exchange between them of like Tupac just wanting to support him because he's a black man that's creating fashion, when they're, you know, he was literally the first black designer to be showcased in Macy's. And, you know, that's a big deal at that time. So for me to be, you know, shadowing this guy who I grew up watching all of his fashion on all of my favorite TV shows, Hanging with Mr. Cooper, Living Single. You couldn't turn on the TV without seeing something from Carl Kanai.
Absolutely. I'm from that era too, so I certainly know and appreciate everything. Tell us a little bit of tea on how you were able to link up with Carl Kanai.
I slid in his DMs. I 100% was like, I was sitting here in Houston working on a project for my client, at the actress Imani Hakeem. And I had a magazine that had reached out to me that wanted to do something editorial with her. And so they needed me to create a concept, and they kind of just left it up to me, full creative license. And I saw that his brand was back emerging. He had this, you know, recent revitalization of people interested in his style of hip hop fashion. The 90s and 2000s are back in circulation. So I messaged. I sent a very professional DM that I listed off. This is the client I'm working for. This is the publication I'm working with. I'd really like to be able to pull your pieces for this shoot. And his response, little did I know at that time that it was actually him responding. So the person managing his page was like, can you meet me in LA at this address at the showroom at this time? So I called my client. I was like, I'm flying in. I'm going to be there Monday at 3 p.m. We have to meet Carl Kanai at 4. And she was like, okay, bet. Like, let's make it happen. And it was hilarious because we walk in and it was him. He was like, oh, it was me. I messaged you. I responded. And I was just like, the man. So it's just a little peasant, a little peon like me. But it was great from there. I literally knew that was history in the making. And I took pictures of, him with my client. I took pictures of the pieces, his collection that he had at that time. He allowed me to go through his entire inventory and ask my honest opinion about different things. It was just wow, and he enjoyed hearing how I spoke to my client and kind of strategized and planned what we were doing. And I will never forget this. He turned to her and he said, keep her around. And I was just like, wow, and we continued after that. He always supported me, answered questions whenever I had questions about the industry, connected with me with other individuals as I needed for, just kind of giving the cosign and saying, yeah, she's good. I work with her. So that helped me move further in my career, honestly, was with his blessing.
Absolutely. And we need those plugs from people who are in the industry and have influence and affluence. So that was definitely a plus for your career. When would you say you started to either pivot into photography or you added that as a tool for your artistry?
I would say, it definitely was a pivot, and it turned out to be a tool where I found myself doing both, styling for my own photo shoots, doing photography for other stylists. I would like to say, COVID brain. We have this gap in time that we don't realize exists, but I guess about 5 years now that I've been doing photography. It seems like such a short time. It seems like just yesterday, but I realized I have the opportunity to work with so many amazing photographers. Demetrius Ward, he goes by Meech 213. He shot Sierra and he pretty much anyone that you can think of in the industry at this point, because he's shot them. He's done their personal and private campaigns. I worked with him when he used to live here in Texas, actually in Dallas, and he showed me a lot of things about lighting. We were a great partnership because the things that I was looking for in photography is the beauty aesthetic and editorial. He had a lot of connections with the Dallas agencies as an approved photographer. And he knew that I was looking for a photographer to continuously work with. And I wasn't finding that match per se in Houston, of photographers on my level that could keep up with the high-end editorial styling that I was doing with my portfolio. And he just started showing me how to do it on my own. And when I bought my first camera, he recommended the different types of lenses. I had other friends that came along that were photographers that kind of helped groom me so that created my type of identity in photography and my style of art. And that translated into me getting more editorial because I'm working with such high-end photographers that I kind of got to miss that growth curve of being awkward and not knowing what to do. It was just straight into technicality. And it became an asset. I started shooting for La Palme magazine. I shot the cover with Atheon Crockett, the comedian that's on, you've seen him on Def Comedy Jam. He's now on the LOL network with Kevin Hart. So just a lot of opportunities came out of photography for me.
Wow, that is wonderful. So tell us a little bit about Zucchiero. Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes, you can say Zucchiero or Zucchero. It's Italian for sugar. It needs
Okay.
sugar. And when I started the company, I wanted to be all about the sweet life. I wanted to just have this beautiful, idyllic aesthetic about my artwork, about making things easy for my clients and just over delivering and being attentive to all of their needs. And I do. I find myself being more than just a stylist for my clients. They get, a friend, they get a publicist, they get, a cheerleader. I'm coming up with recommendations for other products and brands for them to be affiliated. So it's more than just the clothes for me with my clients. So that's kind of me embodying my brand mission in my needs.
Right, right. That's wonderful. Now, we deal with the business aspect of things. So tell us how everything transpired for you financially and kind of what that looked like, and how for anybody wanting to break into either fashion styling or different areas dealing in the fashion segment that would follow your footprints, what do they need to know? Like, do you go out on faith? Or how were you able to secure the bag? Because that's very important to our viewers, is securing the bag.
I talk about that a lot because, especially with the stylist industry, a lot of people go into it kind of with the wrong mindset. They see the glitz and glam and they are willing to sacrifice exposure for the bag, for the business. And there's a lot of very popular stylists out there with, thousands, hundreds of thousands of followers that are sleeping on an air mattress, as opposed to I am a very well-known stylist that has, sleeps very comfortably on a nice bank account at night. So it is very much about the bag for me. I don't know if it's just, I've always been a good business person, a very savvy person. I feel like communicating that up front with my professionalism and introducing myself as a business person, not just a creative, I think that garners a level of respect. I make sure to have contracts. I feel like, because if you present yourself as just this kind of whimsical kid that's just like, I'm just here because I'm a fan, then you'll get treated like a fan. And I feel like, but if you enter it as, this is a business transaction, I am a creative, I am providing you with a service, it has a different energy about it. And having a price listing that, knowing your market, knowing what the value you bring to the project, and knowing how to quantify that smartly, and being able to present this as a need for the business, so that your clients say, well, the value in what Regina brings is, Regina brings the wardrobe. Regina handles all of the photography, putting together the creative team, all of these things. You have to think about yourself as an asset and how you add value. And once you think of yourself in that way, it just makes sense. As far as securing the bag, I always ask the clients, after we have a discussion about their needs, and I send over the contract, then we discuss, how they will do the deposit, and I'm very comfortable about that. I feel like a lot of people as artists tend to shy away from money and numbers, and I put it up front. Like,
Right.
show me the money and then we can talk some more, because I learned very early on, people will pick your brain all day long. And I learned that there's value in knowledge as well. Like, selling your ideas can be a thing that you can do. You can come up with campaigns and mood boards and never have to go and pull an outfit a day of your life. And people will see the value and pay you for creating concepts. I do that as well. I think the biggest question that I'm faced with as far as how to secure the bag is the confidence in asking for what you're worth. And I don't know how to stress this enough, but it's a matter of asking. It's a matter of asking, even if it's something small, like, for the stylists who are just starting off, who can say, well, just pay a kit fee. If you're not willing to ask for a rate, people are comfortable with paying, maybe for your travel expenses or for a nominal fee of your time, so that you're not just showing up and leaving empty-handed and having been used for 15 hours and charging your, maxing out your credit card, pulling wardrobe. I think that's a terrible practice to find that exposure is the payment. I feel like you do need to have something monetary exchange and to make sure that your client also is engaged. Because if you do it for free and then when you start trying to ask for finances after, like, well, I've been working with you for a while and here's my rate, they're going to go look for the next person who's willing to do it for free. And we have to understand that in business and not take it personal, because you were offering under the guise of, I'm doing this for free, and that's what they're getting from you. And when you take away that free, they're going to go look for someone else that will be willing to do it for free. And if we all come together as creatives to say, this is what I charge for my artwork, my photography, whatever, then it shifts the industry to understand that this is a service-based monetary transaction.
So guys, here are some trends that I simply am totally in love with right now. Any shade of brown, it's all about that for me. Neutral tones are everything. Vibrant colors are in this season. And just remember, we're still into the fall-winter season. We haven't hit spring and summer just yet. So vibrant colors like greens, your pinks, your blues, your bold color palettes, it's all in right now. So whatever you have in your closet, go in there, girl, and pull it out. Go in there, sir, and pull it out and put it on. Also, I have on this vegan leather button down that's absolutely sexy. So any button down you have, this is the season to rock your button down. Exaggerated denim is amazing right now. I'm so in love with the pieces from McQueen, not to just call names. Like number one on the exaggerated denim right now. And vegan leather, I just mentioned, it's always a yes for me. Mixed patterns is a simple yes. Brim hats, and of course, lastly, the boots, the over-the-knee boots. As a matter of fact, any kind of boot. It can be a bootie, it can be a thigh boot, it can be a midi boot, it can be an over-the-knee boot, it can be a hip boot, just boots. If you got boots, girlfriend, boyfriend, grab your boots, pull them out. It's the season. This has been another note from your girl, Style Belle Felicia.
Do you find that is more pertaining to the Black community, African Americans? Because, having a stylist, it's not something that we've always done or we've always had access to or that we even thought about because of the money. So what would you say to that?
I think having worked in all the communities, I feel like, yes, the Black community does we do weigh things as far as like cost and like, is there value in it? Because like most people, will say, well, why would I pay someone to dress me? I can go to the store myself, especially with the rates. It's like when they're expecting, like, let's say, for example, when you pull and the rate is, they try to quantify it as, well, I could just buy those clothes myself. You could, but would you put together the outfits the same way that I've presented it? Would you, I'm saving you time because I've gone and I've selected everything based on your sizes, your taste, what you need for your actual photo shoot or your music video or production. I'm doing all of these things. And when you're dealing, especially with me, I'm dealing with a lot of people that are already financially independent and at a particular income level. So when I start listing those things out, they understand that time is money and they're able to rationalize, oh, wow, like I hate going to the store and having to look through a million different pieces to not find something that I like or have to try it on and I've created convenience and there's value in convenience. People are willing to pay for convenience and especially Absolutely. People at a higher income level because they're business minded as well. And now that I've saved them 2 to 4 hours out of their day that they would have spent traveling to the store, trying on pieces, being frustrated, I've brought all of that to them in a 1-hour consultation, as well as pieces that they wouldn't have considered that they do like. Now it's like, wow, okay, I see the value in that, and they bring me back. And the same thing with music videos. This saves the production a lot of time because I'm working directly with the director who has sent me the treatment, which details the aesthetic and the vision of the music video, the storytelling. And we have a lot of discussions about what we want the players in the video to look like, how we want to tell the story, if it's a luxury or, casual fashion, and I bring the pieces to match that. So,
all right. Can you give us any name drops on your latest and greatest, or was that an NDA agreement in your contract?
I actually can talk about a lot. The latest project, just Monday, that I shot. There's a very amazing up and coming R&B pop singer here from Houston. She's called Zandy, and you can find her at Zandy Official on Instagram. We recorded the music video for her latest single, Genie, which is already available and streaming on Apple Music, Spotify, pretty much all the platforms, YouTube as well. And it was a really, really, really fun music video. I feel like this is going to take Houston to that next level of expectation with creative storytelling through music videos, because just the designs of the pieces I brought. There's this one gown from a local designer who goes by the name of Mysterious NPN. His collection is amazing. We were inspired by, I don't know if you remember the song, Foolish by Ashanti.
Yes, I love
Ashanti. She
Ashanti.
had Terrence Howard. Right. So it's kind of inspired by that aesthetic of just kind of this wealth and this luxury, top tier, this guy that has all of these connects, the access, like he pulls up to the restaurant with no reservations and they make a table happen for him. So we're kind of telling that story with this couple and her romantic interest. She's kind of falling into the spell of this guy, and she's become this, just smitten with him because he's got all of these pulls. He pulls out all the stops, opens the door for her. He thinks about her and makes her feel, sheltered and protected. Very, very positive masculine energy going on in that, and very, very, very soft feminine energy in the video. So it's got some sexy scenes too, some very spicy.
Wow, I'm definitely looking forward to checking out the video. Now, we've talked about Houston a lot. I know that you were born and raised in Houston, and you are native to Houston. Have you ever thought about going outside of Houston as far as living for a period of time and kind of doing your thing, or will you always be rooted in Houston, Texas? And where do you predict that the fashion scene in Houston will go?
I feel like I love Houston. It'll always be home. Okay. And I did try living outside of Houston. I tried living in Los Angeles for a little bit.
Expensive.
And it just, I couldn't put down roots there. I love the work. There's so much more opportunity in Los Angeles for my career than in Houston. But I came back to Houston with the goal of changing that and creating that environment for production, film, fashion in Houston. Okay. So I will be staying here and being part of the process. But if I were to live anywhere outside of Houston for fashion and film and creativity, it would be New York. I traveled to New York and I love it. I love Brooklyn. I literally, when I feet off the ground, off the plane, and was walking around, and I called Carl, and I was like, I love it here. And he was in LA at the time. I was like, I love Brooklyn. I'm Brooklyn all day. And it's just an environment for artists that's just amazing. And the fashion industry there, the culture, it's just wow. So I'd love to see that for Houston. I'd love to see it for Houston.
That would be amazing. Now, Dallas has been named a large area, and I have to because you're from Houston, but Dallas has been named one of the top artistic cities in the country. So how do you feel that Dallas and Houston compete with one another, or do you concede that Dallas, has it going on?
Do I concede? Dallas does have it going on. Dallas has always been, honestly, way more metropolitan than Houston. Like, hands down, it is very much more progressive in the sense of business, fashion, and the fashion world. The best fashion agencies are located in Dallas. You have Kim Dawson, Wallflower, Dragonfly. they have some of the best models in Texas located in Dallas. You have a lot of brands that are working directly with those agencies. So you see more of the industry flow there. Designers are booking out of Dallas more so than the industry in Houston. It's a little bit slow, and I would say a little bit upside down in the market. We're still trying to find our way. We're still trying to find what our fashion culture and identity is. So not necessarily officially and politically conceding to Dallas as it has it going on, but it does have the structure there, and it definitely competes with us on that level.
Right. And Houston has its own, I mean, being the fourth largest city in the country, it definitely has its own features that Dallas can't compete with. But being a Dallas native, I certainly love the fashion in Dallas. And my team, Style Bella Felicia, Miguel Atkins, Miguel of Dallas, you know, they stay in tune with everything going on. So I can relate to everything you've said about the appreciation of a stylist and hitting the pavement.
Yes.
They are on the scene. So I love it. How do you handle a new project when it comes to you?
With excitement.
Right? Now, do you take everything, or can you tell us a little bit about what you turn down? Because everything is not for everybody. So what would you turn down?
It isn't. So when I get a new project, I do research on the client. And then based on the package that they give me, I measured on, can I fulfill the needs that they're expecting? They're like measuring and limiting, or measuring and tempering their expectations. And can I deliver what they're looking for while staying authentic and true to my brand within the time frame that they need? Sometimes there are some projects, like you said, that I have to pass on just because it's not who I am, or what they want me to deliver is not going to reflect on my brand very well. Like, it's not a product or a project that I would be proud of walking away from. So I do turn down those types of projects. There have been several that I've done in the past. And then there have some that, I accepted and I love. Like, I used to not really be into music videos, but I've done some that I really, really enjoyed. I worked with Rod Wave on a music video, loved it. He's such a talented artist. Storytelling with him was great. It was very fun to dress him for his story. Let's see, I did a Travis Scott music video years ago where it was him and James Harden. I got to dress James Harden and him for the project. It was filmed here in Houston. So just a lot of different people. I do love doing more of the men's styling for music videos in those projects, but there are some people that I do say no to, and it's just like, I don't think I would serve you.
Awesome. Now, do you do normal people, or are you strictly celebrities, influencers? Like, could a businesswoman get you to come style them or pep up her wardrobe and do things for her, or do you have to be A-lister, B-lister, D-lister?
No, I definitely have private clients that I work with as well. I have some clients that are realtors that definitely lean on my image consulting and having me help them with presenting their photography, their headshots, or just creating a lifestyle aesthetic for their clients to follow. I have a client that she was a grant writer, and she wanted to spice up her wardrobe and kind of just break out of the traditional looking like a realtor. She wanted to look more fashionable, more professional and approachable. I have worked with speakers, people who do motivational speaking, college professors, businesswomen, businessmen. So everyone.
Nice. So as long as they have the coins, you'll work with them.
Always the coin.
Right. And what I've noticed, especially with the Black girl realtors, they are really stepping it up.
Yes.
You know, I don't know if they had a meeting and everyone discussed it, but the girls are serving. Right? They had a meeting.
They had a TikTok meeting called Black Girls of Luxury, and I love it. I love that space. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they are serving. I'm like, wow. Oh, you know, you can't keep up with them. They are definitely serving. So I love that. Let's transition to something that that is rarely talked about. In fact, until I looked up information on you, I didn't even know what it was, to be honest. And why don't you talk to us a little bit about what your podcast, Anime While Black, is, and talk to us about what anime is. I think we probably need to start there because I had to Google it after I read that. And so I would love for you to educate us.
Okay. I mean, this is the perfect time to talk about that. About a year ago, I started the podcast Anime While Black. I am what's called a black nerd. I love anime. I loved it in my childhood with like Sailor Moon, Pokemon. So like the anime are Japanese animated cartoon series, but it's different in that they're not like our typical American cartoons. They are very stylized in the drawing and also stylized in the type of storytelling that they use. Okay. They are usually some of them are based on Japanese lore and tradition. Some of them are just based on kind of adventure and like, you know, typical kid stuff. Originally, anime was geared towards probably the 13 to 17 age group. Okay. But I mean, of course, as the fans grew, the storytelling and the breadth of what they can do grew with it. And we call this kind of the time where anime fans are coming out of the closet now because, like, you know, Megan Thee Stallion is an anime fan. It's very, very present in her styling, in a lot of the things that she talks about on her TikTok, her Instagram, on Twitter. And we're just fans because, like, these characters that are in the show, that's what leads to cosplaying. So people dress up as their favorite anime characters and get together and create content or create it online. And where we're at now is basically the rise of the Black anime fan. Like, over the past year, we have really dominated in that space creatively and economically. And so much so to where a lot of these Japanese brands that do the streaming or create the products, the costumes, the toys, the mangas, which are the comic books, are very much listening to what Black creators have to say in that space. They're hiring Black content creators to represent their brand, creating brand partnerships and affiliation. So with my podcast, I basically would just, you know, talk about anime that I was watching, talk about the different anime themes, or talk to other fans. I started bringing on to my podcast anime cosplayers. That really helped grow my reputation because that is a very, very strong community. They dominate in the content creation.
Okay, and let me ask you this, and I think you might have already answered it, but just to be very clear, why is it important to the Black diaspora that anime, you know, be brought to the front when it's rooted in Asian culture? You know, this is not like Chinese food. You know, this is something pretty heavy, and you've named some economic opportunities that do seem like they would be boss moves if that was your thing and you were in that lane, you know.
It is very much a boss move. And right now, a lot of the creators are learning how to ask for what they're worth in that space, because before, again, as most creators, they were excited about the exposure and the representation. But just to kind of give you a little idea, why we are existing in this space as that is, you, like you mentioned, seems like very culturally particular or specific. Once Japan started exporting their anime content to the world and people became friends, I feel like it was a natural, it was easy for Black people to identify with it. Just like, growing up, we were always fans. I mean, for me and my family, of Bruce Lee and Kung Fu Matinee and all of that. And so like having a respect for Asian culture in that dynamic because of how it was presented to us, and also an admiration for it and the principles, and seeing, similarities in their culture and our culture with meaningfulness of honor and tradition and respect and family. Absolutely. So even when you look at like Wu-Tang Clan, brought like it's present in our music that we have this kind of appreciation for the culture. And so with anime, I felt like it was just another evolution, and it was something we as the Black community were already familiar with. It just went from going from Kung Fu to now anime, and how to get the bag in this market is just like now Japan has noticed. These companies notice because we're creating all this content, and it's a space that was originally marketed to America as the entire demographic. And generally, we know when you market to America, the default is white. And seeing so much, the way that Black people, we take things and we put our special seasoning on it. So when you look at white content creators, especially for me, I love analytics and observing things and observing trends. When I first got onto TikTok, I would see all of these white creators doing cosplays, and I'm like, wow, this is amazing. The makeup, the hair, the music. But it wasn't the same as when I started to see the Black creators. Like, they're creating skits, they're telling stories, they're using it's not a regurgitation of, I'm dressing up as this character and I look like them because of skin tone. It was something even more, that next level of emulation, the movements. We created our own culture within a subculture. And it became visible to the original creators, and even how we dialogue about it, like the way that Black content creators and Black fans were dialoguing about their fandom, and, creating these, sports stat charts, like with basketball, and creating these tiers for how we measure which anime are the top anime and which, characters can beat others. We just really immersed ourselves in it. And it became noticeable internationally, where they're now engaging us and seeing that, wow, like it started to influence everyone else. It even changed the dynamic for Hispanic, Asian American, and white American content creators. Now we're setting the pulse, the trends, the sounds, the styles. And there's a group of guys actually from Texas. They were from Dallas. They're called RDC World. They have, they exploited it in the best possible way. They were creating skits on YouTube, built, I think, over 60 million followers as their fan base.
Oh, wow.
They get over 5 million views every time they drop. You might want to interview them. They now created their own convention called DreamCon that sells out every time. And like, I went last year for the first time, and it was just an amazing, beautiful, safe space for people of color to come and celebrate their fandom of anime and video games and nerdy stuff. So,
well, that is wonderful, right? And your face lit up in a whole different way than it has the entire interview. So I can tell you're very passionate about something that I need to research some more to truly understand. Now, I was an Archie fan of comic books, but it sounds like this is a whole different level from what I understand. And it's allowed the opportunity for people to be creative, and especially Black people. And you focus on Black people quite a bit. Have you found challenges being Black in what you do and being able to compete across the board? Because you've competed in a lot of different things in a lot of different arenas. And I don't know if you want to go back to your magazine or not, but that was a wonderful concept, the magazine that you did. And I was just curious, not necessarily about all the behind the scenes work that it took to get it going, but why didn't you continue that? Because that seemed like a wonderful avenue to introduce everything you've done, and your body of work is so encompassing. We don't know enough about you,
I like a little air of mystery.
Right.
I enjoyed I enjoyed making the magazine. I saw a need for a publication that was run by creators themselves instead of just people who take our work and weren't kind of fairly compensating us, especially here in Houston. And I wanted to create a platform for other creators, other photographers, stylists, makeup artists, models in this magazine to celebrate them, showcase their work in an easily accessible format that was very high end, to the level that we all aspire to. And I knew we could create it and do it. I don't mind talking about this now because I learned from it and I grew from it. But the people that I brought on, I was very naive in that I have this mindset that when I'm working with people and I become colleagues and friends with people, my mantra is, if I eat, we all eat. And I was working with people who did not share that same work ethic. And they kind of were just along for the ride. Like, oh, okay, I see her making these moves. I see her getting these celebrities. Like when I was a small magazine at that point, covered, the All-Star weekend, NBA All-Star weekend when it came to Houston. I had access to a lot of different celebrities just based on my professionalism in packaging. I'm very, very much about the business, and my strategy in how I face adversity is I don't believe in the word no. I'm very spoiled.
Right.
So I think, how do I get the yes? And so if I present everything, if everything stacks up, I want to make it where if you tell me no, it's hard on you. It's harder for you to tell me no than it is for me to take the no. Where you just really have to be out of your mind or sick to say no to this opportunity to work with me. I know what I bring to the table. And I feel like with the magazine, I had a lot of different personalities on board that didn't share that same mindset, that were willing to just go along for what would be provided to them instead of wanting to kind of do the hard work that it would take to keep the magazine going. They were there as long as everybody was eating and the easy times. But when it came down to the times of, we got to push a little bit harder, we have to, trying to get into print and circulation in Houston and competing with magazines who are well established for over 20 years with huge access to financials and advertising, people were more willing to take what I trained them to do and go do it for those magazines and leave me hanging. That's what I ran into.
Right.
And it hurt a little bit. It hurt a little bit because it was just like, wow, when I met you, you didn't know anything about editorial. You didn't know how to write an article. You couldn't send a formal email, but now you're willing to jump ship and go over there because they picked these people off
of your platforms.
Picking them off. Yeah.
Right. And
they saw it and was like, well, come over here. Right.
I truly understand. And I can say, I just want you to know that wasn't unique to your project. That wasn't unique to your industry. I've seen that. I've been in business years and years and years. And that's the one thing. So I do believe in mentoring and teaching people, but you also continue to train successors. So in my world, everyone has to earn their seat at the table more so than the food being brought to you. You need to earn the seat.
Yes.
And, once you eat, once you've earned your position to eat, you're not going to starve, but you're not going to, just have it so easy where everything is handed to you. So I truly understand that. So you are a boss of bosses. Let's talk about what you feel like makes you a boss.
I would say that what makes me a boss is a couple of things: my leadership skills, my work ethic, and my tenacity. Like a boss, we're up, all hours of the night, even when we're tired.
We are.
Sleep. There's
right. That's what I tell my team.
We know it has to be done.
You all are at home in the bed, sleeping, chilling with your family, having a good time, and making phone calls. And I'm up, doing the work to set us up for the future of success. Because they get upset when there are emails that coming through either late at night or early in the morning. But it's hard. And all of the things that you mentioned, leadership is very strategic. people don't realize
Yes.
that they take for granted that leadership is something that can be learned, or leadership, they devalue what it is when truly. So do you have a team, or are you a one-man band right now?
I do have a team. I also can wing it as a one-man band. And
Right.
sometimes, again, as a leader and as a boss, sometimes there's some projects where it's like, I just have to do it myself. And having a team, though, like you said, I learned from the earlier experiences to now where I have a very secure team of multiple people in different fields that I can call on for different projects. And being a leader, you can see in your team members who has the necessary skill for that specific project, because you would think, oh, this makeup artist, she's a makeup artist, she can do all my makeup needs. No, this makeup artist is better at beauty. This makeup artist is better at editorial. This one is better at whatever. And so I will call on them for that. Knowing what tool to use for the job is a very strong leadership skill. And I rely on that heavily.
Absolutely. How do creators stay motivated throughout the pandemic?
Oh. I personally found things, I'm always finding things to be inspired by. And I think with the pandemic, I just kind of was looking at the situation and being inspired by even that. Like, wow, we're going to look back on this and tell this story. And I was thinking about that during the pandemic. I was taking notes. I was taking notes on pandemic fashion, how everyone went from, where leisure attire, if you look it up, is kind of the highest selling thing, to where now even high-end designers have to make some type of version of sweatpants, lounge homeware attire now, because that's where we are. We want to be comfortable, but still fashionable. And it changed the dynamic. I was inspired by that. I think I received so many calls during the pandemic from a lot of designers that were just like, Regina, what am I going to do now? And I use that as an opportunity to say, well, how are we reaching our audience? And everyone was on social media. So a lot of designers took to social media to showcase their collections. There was a beautiful designer. She's African American. I think her brand is called Hanifa. She used her graphic design skills from school combined with her fashion skills to create a completely virtual runway show, and use like AutoCAD and some other software to design actual models to wear her pieces. And she was extremely inclusive, all different types of body types, skin colors, and everything to showcase her pieces. And it was the first time that was ever done in the history of fashion.
Oh, wow.
A completely virtual fashion show with all virtual models.
Wow, so that's fantastic. So tell the Big Texas Bossin audience, what can we expect from you next?
You guys can expect from me coming up soon some more editorials. I have another cover I'm shooting for La Palme magazine with a very well-known internet celebrity, a social media star. He became popular on Vine when it was a platform creating dance content. And he's originally from Houston, Texas, and moved over to LA like most influencers do. And now he's back, of course, due to, just the quarantine lifestyle. A lot of people came back home, and we're shooting him as the cover to just kind of show the evolution of social media and the influence. So that's coming up for me.
Wow, that is awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Regina, please share with our audience how they can keep up with you.
I would love for you all to follow me at Zucchiero Styling on Instagram. And my website is www.Regina, C as in Charlie, S as in Sierra, Moretto, MORETTO.com. You can find all of my work on my website, my portfolios, and appearances there. And, also follow Anime While Black if you're interested in anime, and you can find my podcast on YouTube, Spotify, everywhere. It's everywhere.
Wow. Well, that is amazing. Well, that wraps up this episode's fashion segment. We have delivered a true Houstonian boss to you in fashion and the entertainment industry. I am your host, Lalani Wilson Jones, and I invite you to join me on the next episode of Big Texas Bossin. Y'all be sure to keep up with Big Texas Bossin on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, and BigTexasBossin.com. Have a great day, y'all.
On top.